Good morning, ladies and gents. Today, after a somewhat large hiatus due to weddings and good times being had, we're back, and we're going to work on specifically some more NPC stuff. I've been spending a lot of time recently with getting the UI to look a little cleaner, and also getting the game to be a little easier to use. A lot of the buttons were a little too small, a lot of the images were hard to see, so I spent some time cleaning all that up, making it a more reasonable thing to play and work with the game. So with that in mind, if you see any weird UI or anything that's kind of different than normal, there's a reason. Don't worry. What we are going to do, I'm going to finish up. First off, I started in on getting my attack button for the NPC working so that you could attack the NPC. Shouldn't be a huge breaking change. I've actually messed with the NPC quite a bit. As you can see, even though the UI is old, a fair number of these work. Specifically, the talk is a really cool one, and I'll go over that later. For now, okay, for some reason the NPC feels the need to freeze. Interesting. Just to take a quick look at this. I am kind of curious why its controller is not doing anything. Because it looks like it should be running, and yet, oh, the animator's off. Interesting. So it like spawned with it turned off. That's bizarre. So one thing I can't help but notice is that my order of operations might be wrong. Let's see if that will help. Because when you leave the NPC encounter, it destroys the NPC object, and so if we generate a clone of a clone and then forget to turn things on, or if something gets turned off when you delete an object, we want to make sure that, there we go. Excuse me. And now we can kill this thing. Granted, I don't think it has any attacks. So it also doesn't understand that taking damage, it needs to play certain animations. So that's another thing we kind of need to take care of. Let's see here, prefabs, NPCs. So like most other NPCs, they need more than just this NPC script. We actually need to go in and give it the combat animation controller, which has the death and damage variables, so it understands how to do that. Its on death variable is called die. Yeah. Oh yeah, it is. I keep forgetting they're here on the left. And its damage variable is called take damage. I've really been fighting the fact that all of these are somewhat different from one another. Some will have take damage as 2 words, some will have take damage as a single word, some will say damage, and so it's kind of unfortunate how difficult it can be at times to get these to all line up. The upside is it does force me to make scripts that are a little more flexible, so it's kind of a good and bad kind of situation. We also have, we need, let's see here, a combat action so that it can actually, you know, like attack. Punches being the word of the day here, I guess, for fairies. I don't know, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but yeah, I'll figure that out. Hit bonus will make it really, really freaking high. Damage bonus, though, or the weapon damage will make it like mediocre at best. And we know the, let's see here. We'll use the throw projectile animation for now. That should give it enough information that it can now participate in combat. Granted, it also is pretty easy to beat the snot out of this thing. I'm fairly certain it doesn't have enough health to... Oh, we forgot to attach one more thing. If we go into the animator, I have two things to do. One is we need the animator death, and we have to give it the die animation name. And the other one is when we take damage, we have a hit undo. And that essentially says that what we're going to do is the moment we receive the animation, we're going to turn it off so it only loops once. And then goes back to the idle state. So I say attack, we start beating it up. Parameter throw projectile does not exist. Did I miss something in here? Plop. Hey, look at that. Ta-da! It's actually really, really easy to kill things right now. Some things. Let's see. Where is that? Oh, right, the animator's here. Duh. And I said the attack was called throw projectile. There's actually a space in that name. There's our throw projectile. Double check that you and you still exist and are well. Cool. Kate, unfortunately, settlement is kind of a dead project. It's just a little too much. I needed something a little easier. And in terms of things that are easy or more or less difficult, it was easier for me to handle a project in Unity, mostly because I used Unity at work to actually make games with. So, been doing that lately. So as you can see, the NPC text is really neat right now. You can actually have the NPC prompt the player with information, and then the player can choose a yes or no or whatever other choices. And, you know, the thing I really enjoy about this is that most of it is data-driven. In fact, pretty much the entire system is data-driven. And so you'll note the first time we said hi, the character was like, hey, you know, you're new here, cool. If I hit talk again, I've set variables inside the script in the local space, and what this essentially does is goes through and says, oh, cool, we're going to run through a different set of text scripts. And the text scripts are going to link together in a visual model, which is really, it's just a powerful tool. It's really nice to have. In fact, I'm going to bring it up very quickly right here. So this is called Dialogger. This is a plugin I helped, oh, I'm forgetting the word now. I essentially helped with, you know, putting out the word a little bit, and in return I got a free copy of it. So it's a little older than whatever the newest and latest and greatest is. But the neat thing is it's a very powerful tool. I absolutely adore it. So you'll note, okay, we test in here if our variable is greater than 0, we do A, otherwise we do B down here. A lot of these have, you know, you can play with them, you can move them around, you can do all that. And then you can run conditions on each of these and say, okay, if this is true, do this. Otherwise, do this. And then go here and do this. It's really, really nice, I gotta say, to be able to have all this information. Now, it goes a little overkill. It has all this information as if it were, like, tied into something. And that's the one downside, is that there's a bunch of stuff here that really isn't necessary. If you want to use one of these variables, you end up writing all of them, I believe. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I'd want to be able to set my own kind of metadata. Something different than some of these. If I could do arbitrary key value pairs, I think it would work a lot better, personally. That said, it's still pretty good looking. It runs very nicely. Not a bad thing. We might even go in at some point, since we have source code, and rip out a bunch of their stuff that we don't care about, such as name or portrait or, you know, metadata or audio, And essentially, when we tear that out, we'll dump in our own stuff. So we can say, how much screen shake do we want when this character talks? You know, do we want any special effects when this character says things? We can add in some cool stuff like that. So, yeah. Neat program, very powerful, and lets you do a lot of neat stuff with something like dialogue, right? Because it's a very simple system, but they have a pretty intense variable system in the background where you can do things like say, oh, hey, the players know this. Therefore, in the list of things you can say, you know, if you know, say, that this character exists, you can now ask all the townspeople about it who might know about it. It would be another option that pops up in the list. Or if you have a quest that says, go find this sword, or go find this, you know, object, and you don't know where it is, you can actually ask them about it, as opposed to just kind of being told and not having to do the footwork. So yeah, whoop. And I've got a bug right now in the system. You'll notice that they're at an off angle, because if you get into a fight as you're turning, you can actually cause the monsters to come in at crazy angles. Whoops, not what I meant to do. You can do stuff like this. Granted, all of combat still works, but you can't click on the guys who are off screen over here. And so that's something that I need to take care of at some point. Kate, the other game with the text terminal and VFS, while nice, was incredibly boring to work on stream. Not only were the numbers incredibly low, granted, doing early morning streams are not doing me much better, but in terms of numbers and interaction, it wasn't very interesting. It was a lot of work for very little visual effect, and usually what I like to do on stream are things with heavy amounts of visual effect. I liked the project. I thought it had some promise, but at the same time, like I said, yeah, lots of work, very little effect, and it's one of those setups where if you don't do it just right, it wouldn't be something that would be terribly useful for people. So I was kind of trying to make sure that I was doing something that I think the stream would enjoy. I've had this game concept in the wings for quite some time, so I really wanted to just take care of it, not get it out of the way really, but to be able to put out something a little more visual, a little more interesting, and get some people involved if I can. I'm trying to figure out budget and work on how much it would cost me to do something like get a writer on board who would be able to help me out with story, since that's kind of my weak point in terms of game design right now. It definitely had its upsides, but I can see why something like a text terminal in Unity is overkill. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of sitting here poking through combat, trying things out. How it goes. Let's see here. Whoop, sorry. I need to figure out how to turn back on the ability to run in the background, because... But yeah, you'll notice that a lot of the UI has a lot more space. I actually expanded the amount of area that I'm using down here just to ensure that everything has the maximum amount of space, so that the UI feels a little cleaner and a little more usable. I was playing with it before and all the buttons were tiny and everything was hard to click on, and that I had to maximize the screen in order to actually get away with it. And so, yeah, not a huge fan of having to do stuff like that. Now, you will note that my scale is a little off. I am a little too small for this doorway. Specifically, my head only comes about to the height of the doorway itself, so either we're all a bunch of like 5-year-olds, or I need to change the scale of some of the objects in the game. Just a little bit. I know one of the things that Wizardry did a lot is they had a lot of ceilings that were, because everything in the game was a very specific template, and so the ceilings always felt really close to my head. I always felt like my party should be ducking to walk through doorways and do stuff like that. And so I was trying to make things a little more spacious, and as kind of clearly happened here, oops, I made it a little too spacious. 5-year-olds who dungeon crawl, literally crawl through dungeons. That actually is adorable, and had I not a more serious story in mind, you know, actually, you might be onto something. You know, I don't think I could use the word crawl to make a pun out of the game title, but you might be onto something. I might be onto something, which would be hilarious. I still would be tempted to fix the door size somewhat. It'd be kind of hilarious if you're standing and like table height is like above your head as you walk around. Walking up to the bar and talking to the bartender would be difficult because he'd be kind of, you know, behind the bar and then some. But that might be kind of funny. You'll note the bats are pretty close to the ground as well. I mean, they're kind of within 5-year-old or 10-year-old reach, right? It's something to keep in mind. I'm actually going to go so far as to scribble that on my whiteboard, because that is a good idea. Dang it, Windows. Don't actually do that. Let's reschedule that for not right now, because I kind of like my stream. I would actually really appreciate it if you didn't restart in the middle of my stream. Okay. Yeah, interesting idea. Definitely an interesting idea. I know I've already got some thoughts on what I want to do with the with the story itself, but it would definitely be curious to have that level of that metagame kind of attached to it. No, you're not. Not only are you not these characters, you are not these characters and not the same age. You're a bunch of almost Costume Quest style kids cavorting around the neighborhood, you know, acting like you were doing these things. What I'd be more tempted to do at that point is to make the environment more modern looking, and then have things shift into the kids' focus from time to time. So when you say, I talk to this NPC, and suddenly the NPC turns from some adult into, it's like your mom who you're trying to say, well, how about if I give you, like 20 cents, can I have like a candy bar or something, into, I will give you 20 gold for this, here, health potion. And so suddenly the game takes on a much different twist than what I had in mind. I definitely like the idea, and it's adorable, but I'll leave that for someone else, I think. So, let's see. We've got some stuff going on. I'm tempted to add a global fog, if only because it's kind of funny that you can see forever. That's also on the list. I guess the big thing I really wanted to make sure I got done today was I wanted to make sure that as many of these NPC interactions were taken care of that I could. Give is an interesting one, because I don't know if I want to... I don't know if I want to actually use give for something like quest items, if I want quest items to be something you can hand across in conversation, I kind of want to be able to pass things around in conversation. So in terms of like, hey, do you have that item I was looking for? And you have it, and you can say yes or no. And when you say yes, you actually, mid-conversation, would do something like give them, obviously, the item they were aiming for. Spell is also another interesting one because I want to make sure that certain spells, only certain spells show up. So, and right now I don't have any of those coded in. So like Charm would be one, or like non-combat spells is mostly what I'm talking about here. So Charm, if I have a Detect Evil, that might be nice. If I had some kind of, I don't know, gold detection spell, or some way to hypnotize them further, that might be another way to go about this. So I'm not quite sure I want to dig into these two yet. Now trading is going to be something that I do want to try, but I say but, I actually should just kind of dive into it. This is a test character. This test character should be able to have pretty much anything possible in the game done to it. Should be possible. So let's look at trading a little bit. Yes, thank you. I know it's been reloaded. And let's close that because you guys can't hear the music and I can't hear the music, so why does it matter? Make the player height increase gradually as the story progresses. Characters could age. That'd be kind of funny. Slowly just transition across. Houses start modern looking by the end of the game. Everything is fantasy. Everything is dirt roads and forests and rat men and such. Even though you're beating up the bully from across the street, it's still like a rat man. Let's see. So we've got, first off, the most obvious thing is that and I'm actually going to take the attack NPC option and shift it a little higher. Just so that it's with all the other actions that you can invoke via the UI. Yeah, I'll just trade with NPC is now a button. I know this is a lot of UI work we've been doing lately, but we're going to start getting into content soon. As more and more things get done, it's starting to become very quickly obvious that as much as we're getting done mechanically, that we're going to have to start supporting these mechanics with content. And that's, like I said, that's why I'm looking into the idea of talking with a writer, paying them for their time so that they can either help me make something that I think would be good for this game, or to go so far as to just pay them enough to have them write something. I've taken, I think, all of one creative writing class in college, so that doesn't exactly make me the best writer ever, especially when it comes to creative work. Not the end of the world, just another thing on the list. Okay, we need to figure out what toggles this button to exist. Specifically, I know I have a can trade button, so we'll turn that on. So now the button exists. We also have to go into our UI, and remember, I renamed individual elements like this to window, so it essentially is self-contained. Everything inside that window is a major part of it. And we need to have our, let's see here, trade button. When you click it, you will call trade with NPC. Pretty straightforward. Except for the fact that you'll note let's see here. So when we say trade, Whoops, I don't mean to leave UI in the scene when I'm doing things. So the first thing I want to do when you trade is I want to use the target picker. I want to be able to say, hey, you should pick a target. Now this is the old target picker style. So I'm actually going to delete that text out from under there because that actually shouldn't be there. And also remove this image from this because it doesn't actually need to exist. In fact, I think, yeah, if I do this right, I should actually attach the target picker. Let's see, scripts, target picker. There we go. I should attach it to the root object, not have it as its own thing. But it does need to be off initially. So what's going to happen is you say trade with NPC. We're going to say, great, we know there's a target picker attached to this object, and we're going to enable it. And what we're going to do is we're going to ask, who do you want to trade with? The NPC. Because when you trade with an NPC, it's kind of a one-on-one character interaction for the most part. I'd rather not have party inventory and player inventory. I want everybody to have to hold things so that as a whole they have to distribute weight among their party their party members. Might be a little more difficult to get used to initially, might increase our learning curve, and we have to keep that in mind. We don't want our learning curve to be too incredibly steep, but we're going to enable that, and then we're going to say, once we've got the target picker handled, I'm just looking through here for the way in which everyone else uses it. Okay, it looks like we just set the event and then set this to inactive. So not public. This should be private. One thing I do have to keep in mind, I've got all these like helper functions essentially sitting up here. And these will actually, I'll mark these all as conversation functions. And then underneath the conversation functions, we're going to have the trade functions. Recently I've had a thing where I've started liking to denotate my my classes with big headers, make it really difficult to miss big chunks of code that do very specific things. For example, this should not be there. This one should actually be here at the top, probably. Excuse me. Sorry about the dog. He saw a cat in the backyard. Give me a moment to take care of that, because he's going to keep making noise until I take care of that. Be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Just had to take care of that, otherwise he would continue to be a pain. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Corgi Wonder, who likes to bark at cats. He doesn't really care. Hi. Alright, so... Sorry, I was in the middle of moving code around. Dog. Ooh, go to bed. Go to bed. Thank you. Let's see. Right, moving things around. So, beautiful, adorable, a complete brat sometimes. That is my dog. He does that. We have to grab our target picker. Yeah, so he's great until he starts making noises that like blow people's eardrums out due to their headphones being a little too loud and ticker. So we're going to enable our target picker as we did before. We're also going to register with it. And I don't actually remember what this looks like. Plus equals cannot be applied to operands of type that and a bool. Well, it's not. Oh, I see what it's trying to do. On trade target picked. And that should not be function call. It should just be function. This can be private. We don't need to worry about making it public because when you pass off a function pointer like this in C#, what it actually does is it grabs something very similar to a function pointer in C++. It grabs a reference to this class and this function, and it ensures that you're always going to be calling that very specific function that you handed it from that class instance. That can be good in that if you want to call an instance of a function inside of a, if you want to call a member function in an instance of a class, that works great. Downside being it's a little more difficult to call static functions sometimes, but it also means that when you store things like this, you don't have to store instance and variable the same way you normally would in C++. So I love that about C#. The ease of use of events is amazing. Also, I'm pretty sure this has to be able to take in a character. And we need to make a quick change to our target picker. Specifically, whether or not we can only select the party. So, if party only return. Just want to make sure that if you can only select party members, then we only go through and set that that target picker to handle just the party member portraits that you try and click on. Otherwise, it can go through and you can click on people in the view, and that's not really what we want. The moment you can start clicking on monsters and they're the ones trading with themselves, it will get a little weird. So let's not forget to set that boolean. Where did I do that? Trade with NPC. Target picker dot party only true. Cool. This is actually pretty straightforward, and that's kind of the joy of a decorator system when you've decorated things correctly. And for those who aren't, you know, up on some programming lingo, a decorator system, let's see, I'm trying to make sure I get my words right here. A decorator pattern is a style of programming in which you have a bunch of objects and then you attach things to them, such as the way we've attached our NPC window script and our target picker script. By doing things like this, it essentially allows us to to decorate a single object so that we can create very distinct or unique instances of the same object by attaching different decorators to them. So if I wanted to have something like a status effect, I could actually write the status effect as a script and then attach that script to the object. You'll note that that's not how I'm handling status effects. Maybe I should be, come to think of it. I'll deal with that later. It's a good architectural question when it comes to decorators. For now, though, I think I should be good. On trade target picked. Great. So we've picked out a character to trade. Now we need to actually start the trading process. So that means a few things for us. One, we actually need a... what is this? We need a trade window, or a trade... Is window the right word? Window is not the right word, I don't think. Trade window might be the right word, honestly. So we could have a trade route, and we could actually run through and do that. I'm not sure if that's the best way to handle this, though. I need to actually consider what I'm about to do so I don't cause a ton of trouble. But essentially, let's apply this real quick and just look at what we have just to make sure that this looks okay. So when we talk to our NPC, we hit trade. I can't help but notice that it doesn't tell us what we need to click on. The window just kind of disappears, so that looks bad. Let's add a little text. When you trade with an NPC, the description text is going to say choose a party member to trade with. And then we just need to set this back to null when we're done. So when we have successfully selected somebody, cool, text will go away. I need to figure out what I want to re-enable when I'm done with that, but that's a different question for a different time. I need to consider that somewhat separately. So we hit trade. My description text is not showing up. Why is it not showing up? Here's my description text. It clearly... I'm clearly setting the text. It should be doing something. I hit the trade with NPC and the game object disappears, right? So this should be getting set. Unknown NPC, it doesn't take a ton to understand game design and development. It just, it can be a lot of big words sometimes, but a lot of that vocabulary comes down to something fairly simple, usually. Okay, so clearly the test text is unnecessary. This should be catching it. So why is it not setting that text? What is going wrong here? So the game object is enabled. The NPC window has been turned off, as we somewhat expect it to. Oh, what is going on here? The text that says pick a target seems to be attached to this NPC window. I mean, you can see it behind the character name. So, where is it? Trade button text? No. Why is this? Okay, if I hide the description text that actually goes away. Why would turning off the NPC window also hide the text? This is bizarre. Bizarre and then some. Like, I'm able to hide it. Like, I can hide the whole thing pretty easily. Also, I can't help but notice that all the text on this thing is still the old font. I need to update it and shift it around. But let's take care of that in a moment. That is so bizarre. For some reason, hiding one is completely hiding the other. I'm curious what happens if I delete this. Nope, my description text. This is still blank, too. I can't help but note that I don't know. Whoops. I got into a fight and ran into an NPC at the same time. That's something we have to fix. Okay. My description text is currently blank. If I enable this and hit my description text, you can see pick a target is actually turned on. Oh, it's the target picker. That's the one messing with me. Okay, I got it. I'm an idiot. Let's remove these, because those actually aren't doing, whoops, anything. Not that one, this one. I forgot that the target picker actually changes text as well. This is one of the scary, frightening things that happens when we create a singleton class. You write singletons and now anybody can access it. So it's not just a matter of, oh, well, one object happens to have access and now another one is messing with it. The target picker may not be the best object in the game to have access to this party text. Now, obviously, I'm trying to encapsulate certain bits of logic here, but there's some degree to which that isn't actually helping. That's actually hurting, making my code a little harder to process. And this is why I kind of don't like this. You'll note that it's very easy for this to make a generic statement, and now I can't make specific statements because of it. So I'm kind of tempted to rip this thing out. Here, why don't we go so far as to do this? So what we're going to do is we're going to grab the text object. And when we grab it, we're going to say, by the way, if it doesn't already have text attached to it, right? That's what we're going to be watching for here. Yeah, Black Soups has it right. This is C#. Sorry, guys. I've been like bouncing back and forth between chat and the game work, and every once in a while, it takes me a while to glance back, whoops, at chat. If its length is 0, then we say description text dot text is that. Yeah. That looks good. Okay. We've got our enable code, we've got our disable code. When we pick the target, I actually want to show my text. So when you hit trade with NPC, party instance, description text, pick a party member to trade with. This should do the trick. Oh, but here's our... Wow, really, guys? We're getting into fights and running into the... Okay. Where the heck is that grid square? Real quick. Grid. Here's our NPC fight. We're also going to say no encounters. Because, seriously, I don't want to keep getting into fights on this square. So when I hit trade, the reason the text isn't there is because the target picker is actually attached to the object being disabled. So I probably shouldn't disable the whole thing. I probably should disable the subsection I'm attached to. Because if we look at our NPC window, we actually, instead of doing it at root, I should be doing the background or the background header. So let's do the action background, because that's the part with all the checks and everything else attached to it. And let's just throw the header, yes, underneath that. And get rid of the trade root. Okay, it's called action background. I need to remember that. Trade with NPC, pick a party member to trade with, great. Don't turn ourself off. We should actually find child called action background. Grab its game object and set it to an active. Cool. So, I hit trade. It prompts me to pick a party member to trade with. I want to trade with the warrior. Ooh, I didn't realize that. This is still turned on. Also, I'm getting a null reference exception in the code. Not a good thing. There we go. Just putting some null catchers around here so that things don't go too terribly wrong if I click and nothing happens, because I don't have the event set. Now, that's curious because I just set the event right there. So it's acting like it's blank, even though it shouldn't be. That, or I never cleared something else out of that handler. So I say trade, I pick this character. It probably called the function, but never disabled or did anything else. Yeah, because this is blank. So trade picker, trade target picker, we disable it. Actually, don't think I need an instance of the variable, so I disable it. I need to bring the NPC UI back up. So we're going to, I realized I just removed it. Trade route, which needs a cancel button. And all stop trading is going to do is we assume we're going to be in the trading section, and we're just going to turn it off. So transform find child trade route, set active to false, and then we're going to see, it's called the action background. We're going to grab our action background and re-enable that. Pretty simple. When you pick a target, we want to do the opposite of that. So we actually know that everything else is already turned off, so it's a fairly simple process for us to just turn the one thing on that we need. So we grab our trade route. That should be, for now, what we need. Cancel button needs its functionality. That shouldn't be too bad. Target picker, no. We want the stop trading. Oh, also we want this off by default. Cool. So we say hi, we hit trade, pick a party member to trade with. I want to trade with my warrior. Now this I need to turn off. And then cancel brings us back here. And I can say, okay, now I want to trade with the cleric. And go back. Great, and now we can leave the encounter and walk away with all our goodies that we just bought or sold. How do we turn off that that on click? Because that is going to be really annoying if I continue to not be able to do that. So I think on enable of the target picker, I'm just going to go through each character and turn off the can trade. So for each player character in the party, can open inventory is false, and then when we disable it, we set it back to true. Pretty straightforward. Now, I know there's another spot where I was already doing something very similar to this. So I just want to make sure I'm not doing this in a silly place or a silly way. Can't open inventory if that's false. Okay, the spell UI. When you bring up the target picker, this is unnecessary, and this is now unnecessary. I always love removing code, putting things in the right place such that it's kind of a lot cleaner. Removing code is kind of always a better thing to do than adding it. Obviously, less code to have bugs in, and if you can do just as much with, there we go, I love it. So while the trade button is up, we can't access that. That's great. Give still doesn't work. I'm actually tempted to like turn that off and that off until I get it working. Cool. Alright guys, well I have to take off in a few minutes, so if you have any questions for me, if you have not hit that follow button yet, or if you just, want to hang out a little longer, I, absolutely love the company. I need to figure out what more I'm going to do and what tomorrow is going to look like, because I'm starting to hit that point where as the mechanics are getting implemented, I'm starting to come up on kind of a shorter and shorter list of things I can implement. Obviously, we need to get this window added in. Right now, the idea of trading is all but useless, pretty much. So that's one thing that needs to get done. I also need to make sure that when money comes into the system, that I'm tracking it. I'm pretty sure I am. Let's see. Yeah, party has a certain amount of currency. So I need to then make sure that I'm buying and selling things correctly, and also that items have a value. That's the one thing I haven't done yet. If you look at the items, they don't have a money value here anywhere, and I need to start sorting that out, because as is, without a value, I have no way for the NPCs to understand how much you need to be paying in order for it to happen. In order for the transaction to complete, I guess is the way I should put it. We just kind of want to make... wow, the spam bots are out in force today. Oh well, how it goes. So yeah, we're gonna have to do that. Is there anything else? Not really, guys. I do this every morning from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so if you want to come see more, please, please, please hit that follow button, and you will, depending on your settings, get emails when I go online, or at the very least, it helps you know when I'm online. It puts me in a little sidebar of favorites. I really appreciate all of the follows and supports that I've gotten today. Thank you, guys. And yeah, if you want to see what's in the archives, now that things are starting to get removed from Twitch's archive for me, you'll have to go to the YouTube channel that is linked below in my description text. That has, from start until now, every video of all the work I've done. You can see pretty much every step of the way. Obviously, there's a few things I've done offline. The UI that I've been adding in recently, let's see if I can get into a fight. The UI that I've been adding in has obviously been messing with that. I've been doing a lot of that offline because UI work is not the most exciting thing in the world. Really? Okay. Oops. And I got into a sideways fight. Oh well. That's actually kind of cool looking. I actually like having a wolf right here. If I could have a semicircle of enemies around me, I actually think that would be a little more exciting looking. Obviously, they'd have to be facing me correctly, but that might be neat. That might be something I look into tomorrow. But yeah, you'll notice the UI has become a lot larger, a lot easier to read, that I've also got a new shiny font attached to it. So I definitely am making a good deal of progress, and I will hopefully continue to. Right up until the point where I can't implement any more mechanics, and you guys will see me kind of change gears. I might switch myself from the game dev channel to the creative while I do some writing, while I do some sound work, while I do modeling work or artwork. So we'll see how that goes. I gotta take off. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. You guys have been fantastic. It's been great having you guys here chatting, even if you don't feel like you know what's going on. Having players in the chat as opposed to creators is nice, because somebody can mention when something doesn't look right, when it looks like it doesn't make sense, or when something feels off from a player's point of view. It might be harder for a player to articulate what they think is wrong, but to just know that something doesn't quite look or feel right is enough for me as a creator to be able to dive in and say, okay, what do I need to do to fix this? Because clearly something's not right. Thanks again, guys. I will catch you, hopefully, tomorrow. Take care.